From the deck of the good ship Lollipop, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two of Shirley Temple's backup dancers, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
What a show we have. Listener mail, VoxBox, great new titles, a lot of great classic titles, documentaries, television. Actually no television today. We're piling that up for next week. But music.
Who cares, Wade? I have a question.
Yes, what's your question?
And
oh, dear.
Now, as you know, I'm not making this up, by the way. As you know, I'm redoing my kitchen.
By the way, how do I open this bottle? This is like child-proof. It's a water bottle.
No, it's open. Just twist the thing on the top.
It's got spring water with fluoride?
Well, I don't have a sink now because...
Fluoridated bottled water now? Is that what this has come to?
Who cares? You know what? I got like 18 of those little bottles for the workers who are working on my kitchen. And I'm giving you the last one, by the way.
Fluoridated water. I deny them my essence. Thank you.
That's from Dr. Strangelove. I have a question. No. Just it's open already.
It's open.
All you do is twist that little thing on the top. No. Don't stop the show. Give me that. It's already open. Okay. You did. You really did that, didn't you? All right.
I did.
This is a very professional show. We really got this.
Water all over my hands, and my pants, and the floor. That's great.
After 500 shows, we've really got it down.
So how do you close it?
You twist it the other way, but all you're doing is twisting it like 10 degrees.
Oh, I
That's
see.
It.
Oh, I see.
By the way, Wade is not making this up. Remember the story about how I didn't know how to use my electric toothbrush?
Yes.
Remember the story?
I do.
And you looked at me like I was the biggest idiot who ever lived.
I'm now that idiot.
Okay,
right, so
I have a question.
You have a question. Yes, I'm sorry. Mark.
Because I have something I want to do when Wade talks about movies I don't care about. So I'm redoing my kitchen, and I want to buy a microwave.
Okay.
And I have one I want to buy, but I have a question, Wade. Now, you went into my kitchen.
Yes.
And you saw the area that the microwave will be inserted into.
I did.
Do you think that the shelf that will be built to place this microwave on can handle a 30-pound microwave? The shelf isn't really being supported by anything. It's just like a shelf.
Let me whip out my slide rule and do some quick engineering calculations. How should I know?
But I want to buy this microwave right now on the show.
How heavy is your old microwave that was on that shelf?
Well, no, the microwave was on the countertop. I'm having a shelf built
see.
Just to put this microwave on top.
Well, then you should ask your contractor.
Stupid contractor.
They know that stuff.
I know. Okay,
they do. But I mean, 30-pound microwave shouldn't.
That seems like a lot, right? Doesn't 30 pounds seem like a lot for a microwave?
Not really. My daughter is like almost 15 pounds, so that's like 2 daughters.
Freaking kid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I guess I'm not going to buy this microwave on the show. I really wanted to buy it on the show. It's $199 on Amazon.
Oh, nice.
But I'm not going to buy it because I don't know if it's going to. You know what? I'll have to ask my contractor.
You should do that.
So annoying. All right. Well, now I have to pay attention to whatever stupid movie you're going to talk about.
I've been plowing through some documentaries and figure I'm just going to blow through these real quickly. Okay.
Yay.
So you can time me like 5. You want to give me 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I'll blow through these documentaries.
Go.
Because a lot of good stuff. Walk Away, Renee. This is Jonathan Coet's new film. Now, Jonathan Coet did Tarnation, which he made for like 18 cents, and it was this huge sort of self-revelatory personal essay that just went gangbusters at Sundance. And he became kind of an overnight indie sensation. And this is his follow-up, and it's good. This is part of the Sundance Select series released through MPI. I got to say, it's not amazing. This also screened at Critics Week's Cannes Critics Week sidebar in 2011. I'd like to see him do something that is sort of not. This one's about his mother, his mother's mental illness, and it sort of picks up his whole family story. Anyway, I mean, it's good, but I'd like to see this guy do something else other than do these personal video diaries about his family and his issues. We gotta go somewhere else. So. He
obviously has a lot to say, and he does a good job saying it.
Yeah, he does. But you know what? If you can't be someone who just tells us your family stories your whole career. That's not a career. That's.
What if he has a very interesting family, which he seems to have?
I suppose. Whisper to a Roar. This was a bit of a big deal. This did not get an Oscar nomination, did it?
It did not.
No, that's too bad. Anyway, this is actually a really, really, really good film, and it should have gotten an Oscar nomination. What this is a I talked about this on NPR, I think, too. This is it takes a lot of different democracy movements around the world. This is one of them is Venezuela when Hugo Chavez was alive, the people who opposed Chavez, and there are others. Ukraine is in here as well, Zimbabwe, and it takes all these democracy movements and it kind of weaves a tapestry. It finds the common thread that holds together these people who are all sort of protesting the denial of rights and tyranny and various forms of totalitarianism, authoritarianism. It's a great doc. It really is. It kind of makes it look like there's a larger family struggling for freedom rather than all these individual little freedom movements. Shakespeare Uncovered from PBS is pretty awesome. I, of course, as people may or may not know, I named, my wife and I, named our daughter after a character from Shakespeare. And this is pretty awesome. This is about the stories that are behind the actual plays. And the plays in question are Hamlet, Richard II, Macbeth, The Tempest, Henry IV and Henry V, and then the various comedies like Twelfth Night and As You Like It. And it's really incredibly interesting, and some great people here who kind of all serve as guest hosts, including Jeremy Irons and Derek Jacobi and Trevor Nunn, who's just wonderful. Ethan Hawke shows up for some strange reason. Still not a fan of Ethan Hawke, but really great. It's just it gives you so much more insight into Shakespeare and the richness of the plays. Pretty great stuff. Erroll Garner, No One Can Hear You Read. This is an Atticus Brady film from First Run Features, which has unbelievable people in it. And I'm not familiar with Erroll Garner, or at least wasn't previously familiar with Erroll Garner, who is this amazing jazz prodigy. He's like this. Anyone who knows jazz knows his work. He's just apparently like the jazz pianist. And tons of people. It's a lot of interesting footage here. Just gives you a complete biographical portrait of the guy, and some great interviews here, including Steve Allen and Woody Allen. No relationship, you know that? No relation. Woody Allen and Steve Allen, not related. Did you know that?
Really?
And I never knew that.
How about Joan Allen, the actress?
She's related to both of them.
How about Karen Allen?
No relation.
I don't know any. Can you name a big actor today whose name is Allen?
A big actor.
Yeah, not like Alan Cummings or something. Just is it like a big major, not Alan Ladd or whatever. Just
Alan.
Because I think Alan has gone out of style. Another name that's gone out of style, by the way. You ready? Can you name anybody who you care about?
Yeah.
In terms of pop culture?
Sure.
Named Neil.
Neil Peart.
Wow, you know Neil Peart?
Well,
Rush.
Thank you.
Wow, impressive.
Thank you. Love Rush. Rush is awesome.
You do not.
I do.
Really?
Love Rush, yeah. The Last Fight of Peter Ginns is also a First Run Features documentary. And by the way, both of these have this super slim eco packaging. The Erroll Garner and the Peter Ginns disc. They're like really, really, really slim and probably won't show up on a shelf anywhere in a store. Anyway, this is amazing. Peter Ginns was a victim of Auschwitz, and this is just a wonderful. This is like the flip side, I would almost say, to something like The Diary of Anne Frank. It's a different kind of an insight into a different kind of child, and he had written 5 novels and a diary by the time the Nazis invaded Prague. And at 60, I mean, he's just this incredible. He painted and he drew, and left an incredible legacy of creation. And this is all about his. This is all about really an extraordinary life, an extraordinarily creative life that was cut short, but left a legacy nonetheless that we use to remember him by. And I'm sort of surprised that this isn't as well known as Anne Frank, to be honest, because he's, Anne Frank, I guess, has perhaps more drama to the actual narrative of her diary, of the events. But this kid is unbelievable. I mean, truly, it's just heartbreaking and yet inspiring at the same time. Girl Model, another one from First Run Features, is a little bit disturbing. I've never been really keen on the whole modeling thing and how young girls who are just barely out of puberty are turned into cover girls and just doused with makeup and shoved into this lifestyle that makes them anorexic drug addicts by the time they're 18. Doesn't really this doesn't really alleviate my concerns on that, but it is very interesting, and it does give you a penetrating look into that world and that process, although I don't think it's the definitive film about that. My goodness, what are we getting strafed here?
Every maybe once every
Blue Angels,
like once a day, or once every couple days, you will hear a plane fly overhead. I think they're leaving from Burbank Airport.
Jeez. Fatherland is filmed by Argentine director Nicolas Privedera, and this is all about the La Recoleta Cemetery, and which is this famous cemetery that is sort of a historical touchstone in Argentina. Anyway, very interesting stuff. There are the interesting excerpts that are read during the course of this thing, and you are sort of given not only an archival insight into the cemetery itself, but what it represents from a historical standpoint. It's a little narrow, but interesting nonetheless. Mark, you saw the Central Park 5, didn't you?
I did see the Central Park 5.
Got a Blu-ray here of the Central Park 5. It doesn't need to be seen on Blu-ray necessarily, because so much of this thing is archival footage.
They really, really pushed us for an Oscar. They really pushed
Well,
us.
because it was Ken Burns' daughter. It was sort of, he threw his name on it. It's basically his daughter who pushed for it, and it's not really a Ken Burns film in any way, but it's an important story. We all remember the Central Park 5, and they were accused of this horrible rape, and then it turned out they were vindicated, and it's awful. It's just an awful story of miscarriage of justice. Don't know that this thing needs to be on Blu-ray, honestly, because so much of the archival footage is not high def, so it really doesn't absolutely have to be. But it's a good film. It is a good film.
It's pretty. You know what? You really wonder about the kids have been so definitively exonerated, but you still always kind of look at them going, is somebody not telling the total truth? Do they know they're on a documentary and this is for history and they better put on a good show? You just don't know. But they seem so genuine and they were legitimately exonerated, and it is a tragic story. And again, it's a pretty definitive telling of what happened.
Yeah.
But it's also a very specific time in New York history. That time now is thankfully gone and hopefully will not come back.
We have Orchestra of Exiles. Once again, we are, it's amazing. The Holocaust and World War II continue to give us so many great stories, and we've talked about one already. This is another one. One thing that, one of the little sidebars of Jewish persecution just before the Holocaust that isn't known is that Jews started, there were huge communities of Jewish musicians and orchestras all over Europe, and some of the best musicians, and Hitler started firing them and getting rid of them and basically costing them their livelihood. And there's a little bit of a backstory to that connects with The Pianist, the Roman Polanski film. And, we certainly know now, still today, once again, it's just like a tradition in a lot of European Jewish families that music is what sort of defines you. It's how we, got Isaac Stern and Itzhak Perelman and so many great Jewish musicians that are alive today. Anyway, this is about a violinist named Bronislaw Huberman who created a symphony with a lot of these these fired and expatriate Jewish musicians. Then it became the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra, and that's the story. Orchestra of Exiles. It is a wonderful, powerful, moving story. Excellent. You know what, Mark? I got a Blu-ray here, a Blu-ray DVD digital copy combo of Katy Perry the movie Part of Me.
You loved this movie.
And I love the fact that on the cover of it, it says, look right at the bottom. What does it have on the bottom? You may be a winner to meet Katy Perry. No. Very Cinema bottom. Score A. Certified fresh from Rotten Tomatoes. Now, they put that on there because obviously they're convinced that people are going to look at this and go, crap, that looks like junk. And they want to make sure you understand. No, the critics liked it too. Actually, the critics did kind of like it. And I liked it. And one reason I liked it is because it's the same people who did the Justin Bieber concert film, which is just crap and trash. But this is honest, and it gets into her life and, her strange upbringing and, very, very, evangelical upbringing. She wasn't really exposed to rock music early on, and then she kind of rebelled, still loves her parents, gets along great with her parents. But it's very, very raw in terms of what it shows you about her private life. I mean, the breakup of her marriage to that idiot, Russell Brand, that douchebag, who tweeted a photo of her without any makeup on, which horrified her. She was very angry about that. Yeah, well, he twit-picked a photo of his wife with no makeup on, and the marriage breakup happens basically in this movie. And one of the most powerful parts of this film is where she is sitting there, just devastated, crying, falling apart, and she's got to go on stage in 2 minutes. and the camera follows her right into the little elevator thing that takes you up to the stage, and you see her just sobbing, and somehow, by sheer force of will, she pulls it together, and that thing comes up on stage in front of thousands of fans, and there she is with a smile on her face, and she goes out and she puts on the show. It is an amazing moment. And I can't believe I'm saying that Katy Perry, the movie Part of Me, which does not need to be seen in 3D, it was released in 3D, which is silly. But there's some really good stuff in there. We got a Jewish theme today, Mark. We can't get away from it.
I'm Jewish.
Broadway musicals, Jewish Legacy.
Yay!
From the Athena line of Acorn is great. Absolutely great. You know what? And we always talk about Hollywood as sort of being a Jewish legacy. European Jews that came here and built the studios, Empire of Their Own. The Neil Gabler book is.
By the way, every Jew, including me, has that book.
I have that book, and I've got like maybe 3 drops of Jewishness, of Judaic.
Not enough.
Not enough. I know.
You're not Jewish.
Not sufficiently, but anyway, it's pretty great. You forget it's like Irving Berlin and the Gershwins and Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein and Leonard Bernstein and Stephen Sondheim, and pretty soon you start going, damn, there are a lot of Jews in Broadway. Good for them.
Well, because it's Broadway, it's New York, they're immigrants.
You still haven't seen Spamalot, have you?
Yeah, I have.
It's great.
That's hilarious.
That one song. You know what song I'm talking about?
It's been too long. I don't remember.
You won't succeed on Broadway if you don't have any Jews.
I remember that.
Oh, my gosh.
It's
the best song in the whole thing. It's hysterical. Oh. Citizen Hearst. Now you'll know everything. This is the Leslie Iwerks documentary all about William Randolph Hearst. And I got to tell you, I've seen Citizen Kane, so it doesn't, all you really go is you're like, wow, Citizen Kane was much more accurate than I ever expected that it was. But still, it's nice to sort of get a more, authoritative look behind the scenes. Glow, the story of the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. Mark, when I was a pubescent teenager, Saturday mornings were very special. Not because I enjoyed watching, Hulk Hogan and men wrestle. No. I liked watching Glow, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
I remember Glow.
You remember Glow?
Sure.
Big Fiji and Little Fiji. I remember Big Fiji. I was like, get that fat woman off there. Little Fiji, on the other hand,
that's good times.
That's good times. Absolutely, that was a lot of fun. Really, really fun, and it was in Vegas, and it was trashy. And this is a great look back at that stuff. Terrific audio commentary on here with Billy Corgan, believe it or not, of the Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan. And it's just wonderful. It's just a wonderful flashback, and I had a great time with it. This is not a film. Mark, you watched this as well, didn't you? The Jafar Panahi film.
I loved this film for about 40 minutes, and I'm like, is something going to happen?
Exactly. People called this like not only the best documentary of last year, but like the best movie of last year.
Well, this happened during a very specific time in Jafar's career.
Well, Jafar Panahi, one of the greatest Iranian filmmakers of all time. By the way, it's beginning to look like
Christmas.
No, it's beginning to look like
Christmas.
No.
This begins to look a lot like Christmas.
No, stop it. You're throwing me out. You're taking me out of my game. You're throwing me
You
off,
have
man.
no game. Have we not established that?
No. No. What's his face? Who did a Separation?
I know his new one just premiered at Cannes.
Yeah.
The Path, the Family, the something.
The Past.
The Past.
The Past. Yeah, it's looking like that's the Palme d'Or favorite. All
I
of a sudden.
I love him. He's so
he's a
awesome.
great guy. He's
Really?
such a. It could not. But you met him.
Did I?
Yeah, he showed up at our whole awards thing, didn't he?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he did. He was there.
Anyway, Jafar Panahi, of course, as everyone knows, is under house arrest, not allowed to make movies. Ever since the Green Revolution, he kind of ran afoul of the Iranian authorities, and things are looking bad for him. And this is not a documentary, or this is not a film. Is basically a documentary that chronicles a certain period of his house arrest, clandestinely shot, under the noses of the authorities, and it goes sort of to the root of what he's going through.
Well, but it's very
interesting.
It's very revealing. He literally is on the phone with his attorneys,
yes,
wondering if he's going to be thrown in jail. Can he make movies again? If not, when can he make movies again? It's really all out there. So he gets visitors to his home, and everybody knows that they're on camera. So he makes since he can't make a film in Iran, he makes it in his little apartment, and the thing takes place almost wholly. There's a couple shots I think at the end that's sort of like in the little gated community he lives in, totally in his apartment. And for about a half hour, 45 minutes, you feel for this guy. You feel like you're in the middle of a piece of history of a great filmmaker, And then eventually you're sort of like, okay, I get it. Is something going to happen now?
I agree completely.
But again, that's not to take away from the injustice that he's going through,
agree.
how great he is as a filmmaker. I just think that this film is great for about 45 minutes.
Totally concur. The Great Commanders, The Collection, is a 6-part series from British television that is unbelievably awesome, now on DVD from Microcinema. And this is just totally awesome. What it is, I mean, I was a history major before I was a film major, so I still really love this stuff. It looks at a collection of a half-dozen great military commander guys, and they're just sort of, they're not randomly chosen, but they're not, they don't choose like a 20 of them or 30 or 40. They choose just 6 and try to sort of paint a portrait of how these kinds of men change history. And the figures in question: Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Horatio Nelson, Napoleon Bonaparte, Ulysses S. Grant, and Georgy Zhukov. And I just thought, well, that's a really interesting collection of guys. So it really does. Brian Cox does fabulous narration of this. It's really really pretty great. And Phil Grabsky, who did this, he does a lot. He did like the Beethoven doc and the Wagner doc. He's a great documentarian. He's wonderful. Just love his stuff. A bunch of stuff from PBS. Let me just get the PBS stuff out of here. Dangerous Edge: A Life of Graham Greene, narrated by Sir Derek Jacobi.
Love Graham Greene, my favorite.
You know what? Derek Jacobi could narrate a documentary about the guy down the street. I would listen to it. Absolutely wonderful. Very boilerplate, but it's good. Building Pharaoh's Chariot is a Nova documentary about the amazing innovation of the chariot. We kind of take them for granted, and we think about Ben-Hur, and we think about Yul Brynner getting swamped by water in the Ten Commandments. That Charlton Heston, if you were on a chariot opposite him, you were going to get it. No, it's really interesting. The chariot was an amazing innovation. And then this interesting thing, another Nova called Ancient Computer, which is about the discovery of this thingamabob that they had on this this ancient ship that they raised. And it's like this weird little kind of gizmo that is sort of like an ancient computer. It really did all these calculations according to all these gears, and people anciently were kind of smart. There's a Frontline called Cliffhanger: Politics, Personalities, and the Fiscal Cliff, which is great to watch since the debt ceiling is coming up again. This will tell you exactly what we're in store for once again. And then on Blu-ray and DVD, another Nova, Earth from Space. Get it on Blu-ray. This one has to be seen on Blu-ray. It's absolutely super cool. This is some of the most breathtaking photography you will ever see. All kind of this tapestry of the of planet Earth from as seen from orbit. It's really amazing. Just for the photography alone, it's super cool. And then Shakespeare, The King's Man. Once again, an Athena release. This is pretty dense. You kind of almost have to be more of a real Shakespeare aficionado to appreciate this. It's 3 hours of really intense scholarship looking at the Shakespeare's plays. It's not like the other one that we talked about. This is a little bit more intensely. I don't know what would be the word, like a Shakespeareophile. Shakeophile.
Let me see. Let me just think of random words to help you out.
Never mind.
Food, energy,
no,
delicate,
no,
warming,
no,
soup,
no.
You can tell I'm on a microwave website.
It puts Shakespeare in a certain historical context, and it
shows how lame he is.
It's pretty interesting.
He didn't write his own stuff,
Yeah, so they've said. And then Frida Lee Mock, who has won Academy Awards before, who is married to Terry Sanders, who was my first teacher in film school, who has also won Academy Awards. And Frida Lee Mock has been the president of the documentary committee for quite some time at the Academy. Her film G-Dog is...
Yo, yo, yo.
You know who G-Dog is, don't you?
Yo, yo, yo.
See, you don't.
I have no idea who G-Dog is.
It just sounds like something.
But already I'm annoyed.
Yeah, all right. This is about Father Greg Boyle, who is known as
Sure.
G-Dog.
No, he's a very famous local L.A.
He's a Jesuit.
He's done a lot of great work.
Yep, he's this wonderful Jesuit who is like a
call
gang.
him-
He's a gang interventionist guy.
They call him G-Dog?
They call him G-Dog.
Lame.
I think it's great. And then Vietnam: The 10,000 Day War on 4 discs. This needs no introduction. This is sort of the quintessential Vietnam documentary. It is just absolutely horrifying. If you have no grasp, if you're young enough to not really understand Vietnam except through a handful of movies and TV shows, get this, watch this. It will fill in all the blanks. And then lastly, a lovely box set called the Royal Collection. This is from BBC. This combines a whole bunch of stuff on the royal family, and if you are one of those people that just can't stop watching, royal weddings and all that nonsense, you will just go crazy for this. Queen Victoria's children, King George and Queen Mary, the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, How to Be a Prince, which is a little goofy. That's kind of a profile of Prince William. And the Queen's Coronation Day bonus booklet is what is included here. The most interesting of these, obviously, is Queen Victoria's children, because Queen Victoria, for those who don't know, sort of populated all of the thrones of Europe with her children, and her grandchildren basically were responsible for World War I. People don't realize that, but it's, Russia and England and, almost every country in Europe somehow was tied to Queen Victoria's bloodline during World War I, and it was like a family feud. It was just really tragic.
And then years later, Kate Middleton's going to give birth. It's very exciting.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is.
Isn't that amazing? All right, Mark, let's talk about newish movies. And I didn't say Jewish movies. I didn't say bluish movies. I said newish movies.
Wade, one of the last reviews I wrote for Box Office Magazine was for a movie called Parker. And Parker stars Jason Statham. And I don't like Jason Statham. I'm tired of Jason Statham. Because Jason Statham does the same movie every damn time. Can't handle it anymore. This one, he actually did something that is almost inexcusable, Wade, which is that
he's kind of good at what he does, though, isn't he?
No, he's lame. Because he makes the same damn movie, which is that he, along with director Taylor Hackford, just taking a paycheck here, did something inexcusable, which is that they took a classic Donald Westlake character, Parker, who has only been in two films, Payback, which I liked, from '99. That was a Mel Gibson film. And Point Blank, the terrific film from 1967. Those are the only two times that Donald Westlake's Parker has ever been the main character of a film, even though Donald Westlake would not allow the name Parker to be used in those movies, and those characters had different names. However, now, in 2013, the Donald Westlake estate, because Donald Westlake passed away, has finally allowed a movie to be made of the character Parker as written in the book, and it turns out that this movie is terrible. It's a complete programmer. I'm tired of Jason Statham. I don't know what Jennifer Lopez is doing in this film. It's a complete misfire, and I just did not like this film at all.
Sorry.
Not even Pete Hammond can like this film. This film is so bad even Pete Hammond doesn't like it. It's got Nick Nolte in it, and Michael Chiklis, who's completely over the top, and Jason Statham, again, he just does the same damn thing every time, and I'm getting a little bit tired of it. But there you go. Parker did not like it one bit. However, a film that I liked a lot was Side Effects, which is one of Steven Soderbergh's quote-unquote last films. Now, if you're going to see Side Effects, which I highly recommend...
By the way, before you get on to Side Effects, the Behind the Candelabra, which is technically his last film, unless he changes his mind, the Liberace thing with Michael Douglas as Liberace and Matt Damon as his lover. Have you seen the Michael Douglas? I mean, that's screening at Cannes, and it's only going to wind up on HBO here because no studio wanted to make it and no distributor wanted to release it. But which is weird. Michael Douglas's makeup. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
He looks like Terry Kaiser.
Oh, I think you said that on Facebook.
I did. He looks, honestly, I kid you not, when Terry Kaiser played Vic Hitler on Hill Street Blues, he looked exactly the way that Michael Douglas looks in this.
Wait, his character's name was Vic Hitler?
Don't you know that?
I can't remember. It's been a long time.
Everyone knows Terry Kaiser is basically Bernie.
The guy from Bernie.
Weekend
He's the
Bernie's.
dead guy.
No, he was also on Three's Company. He was great on Three's Company. And he had tons of TV appearances all through the 70s and the 80s. And he was on Hill Street Blues as a narcoleptic stand-up comic named Vic Hitler. And he wouldn't change his name because it would have been a disgrace to his ancestors. He says, "That's my father was proud of his name. I'm not going to change my name. His name was Vic Hitler, but he was the narcoleptic comic, and it was sad because he would go up and he'd tell a joke and they'd fall asleep on stage, and everyone thought that it was like part of the act, and it wasn't. He was just falling asleep on his feet. That was Terry Kaiser. First thing I ever really noticed him in. Anyway.
By the way, you know what's funny is that there's this.
Speaking of Side Effects, carry on.
Well, one more story about Terry Kaiser, because you probably don't know this because you don't follow baseball, but the Oakland A's have a dance that they call the Bernie Lean, and I don't know how this happened. I don't know who generated this. But when you go to an A's game in Oakland, they do this thing called the Bernie Lean. And then one day, I think this was either earlier this year it was last year. It was last September. Terry Kaiser showed up to a Red Sox game. The actual Bernie himself
Really? That's pretty
showed
great.
up to an A's Red Sox game.
That's pretty great.
At the Oakland Coliseum.
That's great.
And it was a big deal because I don't know who figured out that the Bernie Lean should be an Oakland A's song, but there it is. They just started doing it in the A's Coliseum, and it really took off. Anyway, God, how we get on that? Side Effects is a terrific film, and I was one of the first people to see it, which means I read nothing about it. But all I can say, I'm not going to say much about it because part of the fun of the film is not knowing what you're getting into, is that it's a crackerjack thriller. Soderbergh is so controlled in terms of what he wants to achieve, where he wants to take you, and how he will methodically take you there to the point where you think you're seeing one movie when it starts, but it turns out you're seeing a totally different movie by the end. Sweet. And I just love how he just slowly indoctrinates you into thinking you're seeing a certain thing, and then in the end you realize you're seeing another thing, and I loved it. And it's got Jude Law, Rudy Mara, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Channing Tatum. And I think it's great. I think it's a terrific film. It's very highly recommended by me. It's Blu-ray. Does it need to be seen on Blu-ray? Yeah, look, Soderbergh has a cinematographer he's been working with for years named Peter Andrews. I don't know how they met, Soderbergh and Peter Andrews, but they must have met in college sometime, maybe when they were kids or something. Yeah. They're the same person. But anyway, Soderbergh films are always very well shot, and I just think this film was just terrific. And again, if you rent it, and you should, don't read much about it, because part of the fun is not knowing where it is going. Very Hitchcockian, and I love the double-crossing, crazy noirish stuff going on.
Well, and it also includes an UltraViolet copy, as does Stand Up Guys, which I found monumentally disappointing.
I like Stand Up Guys.
Did you like Stand Up Guys?
You know why I liked it? Here's why I like Stand Up Guys.
Okay.
Give me this movie. Give me the. Because
no one's trying in this movie. You realize it. It's almost like, to me, it's almost like they're under the impression, oh my gosh, look, we've got Al Pacino and Christopher Walken and Alan Arkin. Oh my gosh, the movie's done. It's over. Just point a camera at them. They'll do their thing, and they'll be all like, I'm gravelly and I'm a covetation, I'm weird, and we do a little thing we do. And they do their thing, and they don't even need a script. They just get Walken just will walk on, and he'll just say something walking-y, and Al Pacino will say, I must grab my ball sack, and Alan Arkin will say, shut up, I can't hear myself think over here, and it makes itself. It doesn't. It's boring. No. It's boring beyond all comprehension, especially when they go to the hooker and all that stuff. Heaven help us.
You have to understand, dear viewer, although this is a podcast and you're not watching it, dear listener, that this film is a modest film. If you think you're going to watch an epic that will be worthy of the careers of Al Pacino, Christopher Walken, and Alan Arkin, you are incorrect.
Modest is Mark's euphemism for go in with low expectations.
No. I went in with high expectations, and then you realize that this is going to be just a modest little character study, really about two guys, not three. I think Arkin just did it to work with the other two.
Yes, he did,
which is okay. But it's really about Pacino and Walken, and it's just a very purposely slow, a little bit meandering story of these two lifelong friends and their night together, and that's really it. I think that to knock it for not being worthy of their legacies is to put weight upon the material that the material didn't. It's just not there.
My problem is it's not worthy of my legacy. That's my problem.
You have no legacy. I will say that Fisher Stevens, tonally, he doesn't really know how to kind of navigate like the character stuff versus the more comedic stuff versus the dramatic stuff. It doesn't necessarily meld that smoothly, but I will say that I did enjoy this because I took it for what it. I didn't knock it for what it wasn't.
Yeah.
And what it didn't want to be. I gave it credit for what it was.
We're not really giving you much insight into what the plot is, and the plot basically is Al Pacino just got out of prison. Christopher Walken's an old buddy of his, picks him up, and you realize that there's more going on to their relationship than either of them are letting on, but they kind of both know where things are going, and I'll leave it there. But it's an old crime guy movie. Now, I want to talk for a second about UltraViolet. I've been taking a giant plunge, big swan dive into UltraViolet lately because it's what I do when I have, we're putting the baby to sleep and I'm lying there in bed and it's taking forever, and I got an iPad in front of me. I figure I might as well watch a movie. I might as well put this to good use. And so I've been trying to sort of catch up on a lot of UltraViolet movies, get those look at them on the iPad, see how they look, so forth and so on. It's a high resolution screen. How does it look? And I got to tell you, this is why I created a thread on the Facebook page, because I was curious as to what everyone else's experience with UltraViolet is. Not ready for prime time, not by a long shot. First of all, the quality of the streaming and even the downloading, I don't have a problem with. I think a lot of it is really first rate. The problem is, no one really understands what UltraViolet is. First of all, there are like half a dozen companies that are on board, a bunch of others that aren't. We have this thing here, Mr. Hockey, the Gordie Howe story, which is a Walmart exclusive from Arc Entertainment, that also comes with a Vudu digital copy. Now, a Vudu digital copy is not the same as UltraViolet, yet Vudu can be used to access UltraViolet. The problem is there is like Flickster, and then there's Vudu, and then the individual studios have their sites, and all of them communicate with each other regarding your UltraViolet library, but it doesn't necessarily appear the same on all of them. For example, there are some films you'll be able to stream off of Flickster that Vudu isn't ready to do, and then sometimes it'll be like a high-definition stream. Sometimes if it's a streaming like Lawrence of Arabia, it's a standard definition stream. And then sometimes you can download, sometimes you can't. And it's just there's no consistency. It would be so much better if we just went, you know what, you go to ultraviolet.com. Your entire library appears there. That's where you use it. There's one app that brings it all up. You don't have like 50 different players and different companies that integrate different kinds of downloads with UltraViolet. It's just there's too much.
Well,
there's too much going on. It's too confusing.
Well, it's funny because the studios kind of worked together to guarantee that there were some standards for 3D and digital projection.
Yeah.
And when it came to equipping smaller theaters with new digital projectors, which can cost like $60,000 or $100,000, and they couldn't afford it. And I think the studios were they wanted to make sure that there was not a whole bunch of competing digital 3D formats. So there are a couple competing 3D formats, but generally speaking, just a couple. But when it comes to UltraViolet and this sort of stuff, it's all over the map.
I know.
These guys, they need to get together and figure it out.
And I got to tell you, a lot of the studio sites, like the Universal site, it doesn't work right. It's just it's a total screw up. I mean, the programming, the coding of the site is horrible. Some of the studio apps that are available are just terrible. It's so undercooked. The whole thing is so poorly thought out. It's just done. It's like a horse by committee. It's dreadful. It really is. It's going to fail if they don't just fix the particulars. I can't believe they worked this long on something. Anyway, Mr. Hockey, the Gordie Howe story, Walmart exclusive. It's about Gordie Howe. What do you want? It's you have to be a hockey fan to really, really love this. Nothing great about it, nothing bad about it. It's just really, really straightforward. Decently made, decently acted. And if you don't know who Gordie Howe was and don't care, you're not going to watch it. If you do, you're going to love it. And it's on Blu-ray, and I would say it's perfectly adequate Blu-ray transfer.
Perfectly adequate. I believe it says it on the DVD box.
It does. It quotes me as saying perfectly adequate.
I was kind of hoping that Sofia Coppola film, whose name I can't remember right now, would mean the reemergence of Stephen Dwarf from the depths of Somewhere,
yes.
Which I liked a lot.
Yeah.
And God, I cannot wait to see The Bling Ring. When it was announced that Sofia Coppola is directing The Bling Ring, I just got so excited. It just seems like a thing that she would knock out of the park.
Everyone loved it.
There's something about her and who her father is and what her age is and her sensibility. I just know she's going to knock it out of the park. Anyway, I was hoping that Somewhere would be a really solid reemergence for Stephen Dorff. However, he's back in B-Movie Land.
Yep.
Because that's what he does. Mm-hmm. A film called Tomorrow You're Gone with Willem Dafoe and Michelle Monaghan, who kind of like,
I like Michelle Monaghan, but she hasn't become the new
the
new darling. She's like the new Amy Adams. She was on the Amy Adams track, kind of, but she hasn't really emerged because she's just, I don't know, not dense enough. I don't know what it is.
But the problem is that, especially if you're, for women, unfortunately, you really only get one shot at that.
I know.
You can't, because then you get older and now no one wants to hire you as the young hottie, and it sucks to be an actress in Hollywood because you really only get one shot to be like the big time. Anyway, this was directed by David Jacobson, who also directed Down in the Valley and Dahmer, so he's very much into lonely, conflicted, troubled criminals. Not that great. It's a thriller about an ex-con who takes a mission because he's asked to by this mysterious benefactor played by Willem Dafoe. It's not great. It's based on a novel. Novel, of course, I would imagine is going to be better. It's just all very gloomy, and Michelle Monaghan plays a porn actress, which I guess is fine. But I'd rather watch a porn.
All right. Dark Skies, Blu-ray, DVD, and UltraViolet. Once again, Dark Skies is, I've been seeing a lot of the supernatural horror films lately, and that I can't talk about because I signed NDAs for all of them. But this is just yet another one. It's just like another variation on the whole poltergeist / Amityville horror motif. The idea of a family that's somehow been targeted and victimized by something supernatural, horrible, and terrifying.
Did you realize that I was actually living on Long Island when the Amityville horror happened?
Really?
Not only was I living on Long Island when the Amityville horror happened, but my uncle,
Yes.
who had a house in Amityville at the time,
Really?
he actually knew because my uncle worked in real estate.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And he knew the groundskeeper of that house.
And what did the groundskeeper tell him?
He saw nothing.
Okay.
He thinks it's a bunch of crap.
Okay.
Imagine that. Well, there's a documentary, a very good documentary that came out, I believe, earlier last year called My Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
And it is all about the one surviving guy, this guy Daniel Lutz, the one surviving family member who was willing to talk. And this guy, his life is completely screwed up. He's not just Daniel Lutz. He's the Amityville kid.
Yeah.
He's had to live with that his whole life. And he had nothing to do with it. I mean, his stepfather was kind of evil, and there was weird stuff going around the house, but he didn't know what it was because he was so young, and maybe it was his dad, and his dad was very controlling, and it ruined his life. And actually, as a side recommendation, My Amityville Horror.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, Dark Skies is perfectly okay. It's not great. It just really retreads a lot of the same stuff we've seen a million times in all those same movies. And it's, if you love the genre, fine, go for it. But I mean, I'm kind of sick of seeing suburban families targeted and tormented by demons from beyond. It's like enough already. Find somebody else to pick on.
Wade, I don't know what to make of Ben Kingsley. Somehow I think that Ben Kingsley should just do. He's older and he's a little cheesy.
I know what you're saying. I know,
and he should just go and do movies
Gandhi
like A Common Man.
Gandhi 2.
The Revenge.
Yeah.
He should just become like an older B movie. All the work I could get is this cheeseball guy, kind of like A Common Man, which we'll talk about in a second. But he winds up getting these big roles. He's in Hugo.
I know.
He's in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
I mean, he still gets these big roles where there's something about him. Like, you're just a little bit cheesy and old and over the hill.
One word. Gravitas. He does. He brings the gravitas.
Yeah, but in Iron Man 3, he also is funny as the as what the villain actually is.
Yeah.
Did you see Iron Man 3?
I have not.
There's like a surprise about the villain.
I have a baby. I'm limited now in my theatrical experiences.
There's a surprise about who the villain really is, and he knocks that out of the park too. It's very funny. Anyway, A Common Man. Although it's Ben Kingsley, Ben Cross, and you know what? I'm very glad Ben Cross wound up in Star Trek.
Ben Kingsley and Ben Cross. They starred in the Best Picture winner at the Academy Awards of 1981 and 1982, Chariots of Fire and Gandhi. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mwah. I love you too.
Here they are 30 years later, still getting the roles. Anyway, Ben Kingsley plays this guy who plants a bunch of bombs around all around the world, and he's going to detonate them until a bunch of terrorists are released. If they're not released, he'll detonate the bombs. Anyway, the movie definitely doesn't deserve the cast it has. So I don't know why this was made or who would really want to watch this, especially because it was directed by somebody who's only done one film previously. And it wasn't very good. Chandram Ratnam. But anyway, A Common Man, I'd pass.
Boy, Richard LaGravenese. I like the guy a lot. I really do. But
I think we like him on the strength of the one film that he knocked out of the park.
The Fisher King.
Yes.
Yeah, but he's done other interesting. He really has made some other interesting films. And that being said, he's one of these writers who's not easy to sort of you don't hire him to just rewrite something. He has a very interesting way of working. He never structures anything. He doesn't outline anything. He just kind of goes from his id. And obviously his career has not been on the fast track lately. So he figured, you know what, that Twilight thing's been doing well. I could do better than that. I'll just do my own Twilight story with witches. That's what I'll do. And so he wrote and directed Beautiful Creatures, which is, look, don't get me wrong, it's way better than any Twilight movie. But that's not saying much. That's just saying like Burger King is better than McDonald's or Carl's Jr.
Well, everyone knows that.
Yeah. But look, great cast. I mean, good grief. Emma Thompson, Jeremy Irons, Viola Davis, Emmy Rossum. I mean, it's a pretty
Emmy Rossum, by the way.
It's a pretty
Delicious.
great cast. Even though the two stars are people you've never heard of, the two young people, you never heard of them before. But that doesn't matter. It's a great cast, and Philippe Rousselot, is an amazing cinematographer, and it looks good. It's another one of those movies, and it's. Even if it's on the higher end of those movies, it's one of those movies.
By the way, and Le Gravenese also wrote Behind the Candelabra, which we were just talking about.
That's right, exactly. And then real quickly, Christopher Plummer in Barrymore is okay. I don't feel like there's a whole lot to the story of John Barrymore, and this somehow it takes,
proves it.
Well, this was a play. And he was trying to sort of translate this the power of his Tony-winning performance on Broadway into a movie here, but it doesn't really work. It's still kind of like a filmed play, and it just doesn't. And I don't think I'm not sure why it even won a Tony. I think he won the Tony because he's Christopher Plummer. There's not a lot to John Barrymore's life that really justifies anything dramatic. I got to tell you. They try hard. It's well written for something that really doesn't have any sort of inherent drama to it. But anyway, so there you go. If you want to see a filmed Tony-winning performance, fine.
Maybe.
What's on Blu-ray? Did I mention that? It's on Blu-ray, so it's like you're there on Broadway.
You love that. All right, Open Road is the name of a production, not a production company, a distributor that Wade and I admire because they were created by two theater chains.
Yes.
To pick up all sorts of movies that the studios are too wimpy to distribute,
correct,
including Side Effects.
It is run by Tom Wartenberg, who used to run Lionsgate, and I have enormous respect. I think he's the best and smartest executive out there, so bravo to them.
If you take a look at the Open Road films that have been released, they're by and large, at least 80% are good films.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we're not talking about that Open Road. We're talking about the Open Road movie, which was from last year. It co-stars three people who should know better, but sometimes you can't get work. Juliette Lewis, Andy Garcia, and Camilla Bell. And, it's one of those films about, young girl. She's waitressing, and she has to decide whether she should, be with her family, who loves her and, and cares about her, or she should go for this life of, complete hedonism and freedom because she meets this drifter and a handsome cop. And so they represent one sort of lifestyle, whereas if she were to hang with her family in this small town, they represent another kind of lifestyle. And so she's at this fork in the road. And that is the reason why the film is called Open Road. It's fine. It's not bad. It was directed by Marcio Garcia, who only directed one film before. That's Bed and Breakfast from 2010, which was No Great Shakes, because it stars Dean Cain. And what Dean Cain movie really is any great shakes? None. Mm-hmm. Zero. So I consider this fairly bland, digitally shot filmmaking of no particular importance. So I would probably just pass on Open Road unless you really love Camilla Bell, because you know what? She's delicious.
Absolutely.
Just like Emmy Rossum, which you didn't hear me say. You were ranting about something, and you didn't hear me say that Emmy Rossum is delicious.
I agree with you. I'm not going to argue. Blu-ray, DVD, digital copy, UltraViolet combo, The Oranges with Hugh Laurie, who's fabulous. Hugh Laurie and Leighton Meester, basically, it's a married man, young woman, dark comedy scenario. There's nothing new about this other than it's a very sharp dialogue and a very smart cast. Totally familiar scenario. We've kind of seen it done a million times. But when you reinvent it with Hugh Laurie and Leighton Meester and Catherine Keener and Oliver Platt and Adam Brody and Allison Janney, it's like it's like a real movie. Actors can do an awful lot, especially Oliver Platt, who just somehow turns everything to gold for me. Oliver Platt, you stick that guy in the crappiest movie in the world, it suddenly becomes watchable, even if it's just a cameo. Have Oliver Platt walk on for 5 minutes in a bad movie, and suddenly I can watch that whole damn thing.
Yeah, what happened to that guy?
He's good. He just brings it.
He's one of those guys who'll wind up, and I'll probably wind up getting emails about this, but he's one of those guys who should wind up on one of those CSI shows where you're like, I'm glad he's getting work. Yeah. Consistent work. Wade.
I'm not, no argument for me.
No, Wade, I've never seen Glee and don't care about it. because I'm a heterosexual man. And let me say that Chris Colfer, who stars in Glee, actually made his screenwriting, big screen screenwriting debut in a movie called Struck by Lightning. Now, Struck by Lightning is about a 17-year-old kid played by Chris Colfer from Glee, who winds up like getting struck by lightning and dying. But the movie narrates his story from after he had died, recounting his final weeks as a super nerd in high school. And it's got a good cast. What I didn't like about it is that it seems as if it is very beholden to other movies of that type about, snide kids being sarcastic about their high school experiences, and it doesn't really bring much distinction to that fine list of films previous. But again, it's got Chris Colfer, who wrote it. Allison Janney's in it. Christina Hendricks is in it. Sarah Hyland from Modern Family is in it. Dermot Mulroney. So it's got a decent cast. Rebel Wilson's in it, who's kind of hot right now. But ultimately, I just think that this movie... What was the movie that you love? Submarine.
Yeah.
You love Submarine, right?
Yeah, love it. It's awesome.
Coming of age-y sort of...
There's
just a million films like that.
It's great.
Of which this is now another one. So... If you love Chris Colfer, sure, why not? He wrote it and stars in it. But otherwise, I just think there's a lot better films of this type to watch than this, including Juno, which actually also starred Allison Janney. Anyway, so that is Struck by Lightning.
Yay.
Now, there's another film out called Picture Day, and this is a weird little film. This is about, it's also kind of high school based. It's about a girl who's Tatiana Maslany. I don't really know where she came from or who she is. I don't know what kind of career she's going to have for herself. She's kind of weird looking, but in kind of that nerdy, cute way. She has to repeat her senior year of high school. So she winds up running away with this musician, played by Stephen McCarthy, another kind of young, hipster-looking guy. And, they wind up kind of having a relationship, and this is the type of thing that really, honestly, shouldn't be made.
All right.
I mean, they should take, look, this movie could not have cost more than $2 million tops. They should have taken this movie, the $2 million, and they should have made something like totally different, distinctive, bam, NC-17, get your name on the map. Instead, it just becomes like another product.
Did you know the Centers for Disease Control tested public pools and found out more than half of them contain bacteria that suggests someone may have pooped in the pool?
I read that story. I read that story. And then you're like, well, who's doing that? And then, okay, even if you figure some of it is like, babies in their diapers and maybe they just pooped and so some of the poop gets in the water, so it's not the baby's fault or whatever, or people who didn't shower before they went into the pool.
It's the big hairy guy from
it's just a bunch
big hairy bald guy.
It's just a bunch of douchebags who guess what I did? I pooped in the shower, dude. It's awesome. Oh my God, it's going to be awesome. People are going to be swimming in my poop. I love life.
Listener mail. Al from San Francisco took us to task for being a little bit too dismissive of Mandalay, which is part of the Forbidden Hollywood collection from Warner Archive, because we did not shine a spotlight on the amazing Kay Francis. And he's a big fan of Kay Francis, loves her postcode film Living on Velvet by Frank Borzage. And he's looking forward to Paramount releasing some of her other pre-code classics, Girls About Town, 24 Hours, Scandal Sheet, Ladies' Man. Those are the ones that we're going to have to talk about when they eventually make it out. And we indeed will, because Kay Francis is someone special. And Al, thank you for taking us to task on that. And then also got an email here from Jason Levy, who says... and this is an interesting, I want to just take a second to talk about this. He says, since Wade took a look at The Hobbit on 3D Blu-ray and wasn't sure if it was running at 48 frames per second, I went ahead and did a little research, found out the Blu-ray for it is not displaying at 48 frames per second. While it's feasible for Blu-ray to support 48 frame per second playback only on future Blu-ray update, it is not currently supported by the current encoding specs. Anyway, he goes on to sort of go through some specs, and I should clarify... that what I was talking about was watching it on a television that has been bumped up to 120 hertz, which simulates the 48 frame per second effect. And that's what you're supposed to do to get sort of the full Blu-ray, the full 3D Blu-ray effect. And it's not the same in the home environment as it is theatrically. Neither of them are impressive. But I'm not sure that they are ever going to really make the effect work in the home environment for a whole litany of reasons. I really do think 3D in the home environment is pretty much doomed for everything except for games, where gamers will get a certain experience because games they're much more malleable where that's concerned. And Kyle Stevens, longtime listener, writes to us, and he said he just finished watching The Impossible, and asks, does a film's adherence to factuality hold any bearing on its impact and reception as it pertains to critical review? Does knowing the writer or director took liberties to enhance the plot change the effectiveness? For me, knowing that I'm watching a heavily altered account lessens the importance of what may have really occurred. Conversely, knowing that a film is being as accurate as possible boosts even the mundane parts. It's a great question. I don't, the classic example is Lowell Thomas, who's was taken out of Lawrence of Arabia as a character and replaced by Jackson Bentley because he just was opposed to the whole idea of making a movie, and he said the only thing factual in that movie is the camels in the sand. Movies are not reality. Movies are not history, but they can draw on history, and I think you have to find that sweet spot. Shakespeare did, and in fact, that the Athena title that we talked about earlier, that gets into the stories behind the stories of Shakespeare's plays, it really touches on that. You have to find a sweet spot where you're taking dramatic license to benefit the drama, but you're not betraying the history. And I think every project has a different sweet spot. I think you just have to. It's a judgment call, because The Impossible, for example, it's a very accurate film, but it's not a British family that originally this happened to.
Well, I think that generally speaking, audiences, when they see a true story, whether it's, the Hyde Park on Hudson film or whatever it is, if it's a narrative, automatically the filmmakers can be as truthful or not truthful to the original story and material as they want. And they have to be. Because, what would be the alternative? There is no alternative. The moment you make a film based on a true story, you have to alter that story to fit the constraints of a 2-hour time slot, and you have to condense events, and you have to change events in order to make it work as a film. That's all there is to it. Even documentaries. Documentaries, as nonpartisan as you may want a documentary to be, and that's totally based on truth, eventually there's going to be some discrepancy there between the truth and what the director is conveying to you. So really, you cannot go into any film and think it is the truth.
Absolutely true. Walter Gass writes and says, I wanted to say that both Bates Motel and Hannibal are actually really good shows. I thought the way you did when I heard about them, but it turns out they're quite good. Also, Kirk's parents and JJ's movie, Felicity and Thor. Chris, not Liam.
That was on me. You know what? I can't keep the Hemsworth brothers straight. Regarding Hannibal, I do like the fact that Mads Mikkelsen's getting work. But the only problem with that is that I feel like Mads Mikkelsen was our find. He was ours.
Yeah, I feel that way too, right?
He was
in the Pusher films.
In these cool films like the Pusher films and
Nobody
Valhalla
else.
Rising
I know.
and Royal Affair. He was our guy.
And then
we thought, and now it's like
I know.
every stupid Trailer Park Joe is watching him in their double wide in Hannibal, and I don't like that.
I don't either. It's a problem.
I want him to be mine.
And Eric Altieri asks us, so we're all videophiles here, wondering if you have any strict rules about how you organize your collections. Do you separate movies and TV? Do you separate documentaries? Do you separate TV and DVD and Blu-ray? What about box sets, special box sets? What about shelving? What kind of shelves do you recommend? These are the questions that keep me up at night.
Wade, let me tell you something. Wade used to have the most confusing... I just do mine alphabetically at the end.
By the way, he said the Film Junk podcast had 3 episodes and 5 hours devoted to this subject. The movie organization manifestos is what they call them.
Now,
which I find hysterical. But
okay.
Anyway.
Now, before I make fun of Wade...
Yes.
I do mine alphabetically, period. Now, there are some things where, like, if it's a box... Like the Stanley Kubrick box set goes under K for Kubrick. The Alfred Hitchcock box set goes under H for Hitchcock. So, obviously, there's some discrepancies there. There has to be. But basically, it's all alphabetical. Now, Wade, I remember years ago going to Wade's house and seeing the literally 6,000 DVDs that you have. Literally, I'm not sure if you've winnowed that down at all, but
a little bit.
You and I used to go through your pile, your 6,000, and I used to grab stuff to borrow. And as I went through it, I realized that you were out of your mind.
I am out of
You
my
would
mind.
do it not only alphabetically, but you would have directors. You would have box sets.
Yes. I had my film authors. Well, I would separate DVD and Blu-ray together for sure, but I would separate out. And actually, right now, I keep all my Blu-rays separate. I divided that up. But I would have movies alphabetically, but then I also had schlocky films. I had exploitation films in their own section. I had horror films in their own section. I had martial arts films in their own section. I had foreign language films separated out. And then I had my film authors area where I would put, all of my Fassbinder and my Truffaut and my Kurosawa and all that stuff.
Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo.
Hey, it's what I do. That's the way my brain works. All right, let's talk about some music and then wrap out with a Vox Box. Paul Anka. No, not yet. Paul Anka live in Switzerland. This is great. This was filmed in Basel in 2011, and I just love Paul Anka. It's a great Blu-ray, beautiful quality. I still say live concerts are the best things for Blu-ray. It's just wonderful on great big TV and Blu-ray and high def. It just nails it. A lot of great songs here.
Come on, how can you not love this?
What the hell is that?
That's a long-haired Chihuahua.
Ew.
The other day I hung out with a long-haired Chihuahua, and God, this dog was so
Your dating
cute.
Your dating has taken a really sad turn.
Huh?
Your dating has taken a really sad turn.
Well, at least the dogs will go out with me.
Okay. Paul Anka's great. And, of course, we all know Paul Anka wrote My Way for Frank Sinatra, which he sings himself here on the later part of the concert. It's great, and he sings "She's a Lady" and "For Once in My Life" and "Oh Lonesome Me." It's just wonderful. Paul Anka's great, and he's Canadian. You know that, right? Paul Anka.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Canada should be proud.
Yep.
Screw that Shatner guy. And let's see, Mark, you got something? Oh, go for that. Talk about that.
I want a long-haired Chihuahua.
Freak.
Anyway, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. They were a British new wave group.
OMD, baby.
OMD.
Yeah.
Not OMG. OMD.
Mm-hmm.
They never were really huge in the States. They were really more like what the cool kids liked in school.
Yeah.
More than super popular. But they did have some really good songs. And on Blu-ray, we now have OMD Live, Architecture and Morality and More. And there's some good songs here, including Architecture and Morality.
Yeah.
Locomotion, So in Love, Talking Loud and Clear, Joan of Arc. So there's good stuff here, and it's pretty well shot. They've been around since I think they started in the early 80s, and they lasted pretty much. I think their golden years were between the early 80s and 1988 or so. But they're pretty cool. They're cool. They're older now. They're more polished as musicians, and it's not bad stuff. Actually, kind of made me reappreciate them a little bit. OMD, Architecture and Morality and More. The other Blu-ray we have is Alanis Morissette live at Montreux. We talk a lot about the Montreux Blu-ray sets. I really like pretty much all of these, I have to say. These are all good Blu-rays. They're all really well shot. The audio is all good. The camera positions are good, so you get very intimate with the performers. And so we have Alanis Morissette singing a bunch of her classic songs, mostly from when she reinvented herself from a Canadian little pop star to this angry rock songstress.
Yep.
So you got You Ought to Know and Hand in My Pocket, and that. By the way, that album,
Yeah.
Bitter Little Pill,
Yeah.
it totally holds up. It's a great
absolutely. It's an awesome album.
It really is great.
Fantastic.
Now she was recording this in support of a new album called Havoc and Bright Lights, but I think her career basically is kind of plateaued. But still good songs here. She's still a good artist, still a good songwriter, and Alanis Morissette, good stuff.
Michael Schenker, Temple of Rock, live in Europe. If you're just a good old fashioned hard rocker, go for it. This is great. It's an excellent Blu-ray. The shot at the Tilburg what?
The doggy, look at the doggy, the doggy.
You're
Come
a
on,
frickin'
it's
dog.
cute.
Okay.
Long-haired Chihuahua.
Anyway, you've got two different concerts here. One from the London High Voltage concert, and then the other one is in Tilburg, Netherlands. And just good stuff. It's just really good hard rock and concert rock. And the other one here is the Rolling Stones' Crossfire Hurricane. I am a sucker for anything Rolling Stones, as I know Mark is, and this is actually just a portrait of their entire rise to remarkable success. And excellent stuff here. The Jumpin' Jack Flash is the song that the title Crossfire Hurricane comes from, and you get a great look into their entire genesis. It's just a really fascinating thing. And the Rolling Stones are not like any other band in history. I mean, they had their ups and their downs, and some dark moments, and yet they're still together and they're still doing great music and still drawing sold-out stadiums, even though, Mick looks like he's 20 years younger than he is, and
Although,
Keith Richards looks like he's 150 years older than he is. Somehow they're pulling it together.
I've heard stories about how Keith Richards right now
Yeah.
is so old
Yeah.
and so out of tune
Yeah.
because he's so out of it that they have to basically auto-tune his guitar parts live on stage. They pretty much have to auto-tune him live on stage because he's so old and so far gone and just can't riff like he used to and is out of tune half the time.
That's okay. You remember what Sinatra was like in those last few concerts? He wasn't hitting.
But the good thing with Sinatra is that he was such a great performer.
Yeah.
You can.
His voice was gone. It was like bourboned all the way to hell.
But he can perform. But he can almost act the lyrics and still have that power. Anyway, that's what I've heard.
All right, and Mark, let's
doing it now?
Yeah, we're doing it now.
It's Voxbox.
Hi, Mark and Wade. It's Cheryl Dixon, and I have 3 questions for you. My first is, what are your guys' thoughts on Colin Trevorrow being chosen to direct Jurassic Park 4? Now, he directed Safety Not Guaranteed last year, and has been chosen for Jurassic Park 4. And his choice is kind of like Mark Webb doing Amazing Spider-Man, any director doing a big studio film. And Safety Not Guaranteed was a sci-fi, low-budget film, so this might be in his wheelhouse. I'm a little unsure, but could be a good choice. And that leads to my second question. Are you guys going to see Jurassic Park in 3D? Well, I never saw Jurassic Park since I was 4 when it came out. I'm kind of thinking of going to see it. Do you think it's worth the money? And my last question is, what movies are you looking forward to this summer? I'm looking forward to Iron Man 3. That's going to be awesome. Man of Steel, which I know Wade's definitely going to like. And World War Z, just to see how bad it's probably going to be. What are your thoughts? Thank you.
Great question, Chevelle. Thank you. First of all, I would say I think that's the weirdest casting for a director for Jurassic Park 4 I've ever heard.
I like it. I'm on board.
Are you on board?
Well, I do get worried. I get worried that
he's never made a big film.
No.
Which doesn't mean anything. Okay. I mean, you surround him with the right people, but that's the thing. They like these young, untried directors because they can push them around. And that's my fear. I'm sure he can handle the actors. I mean, look, they've already pushed the release date of that movie. So that tells me that things are not moving as quickly as they'd hoped they would. And it was an overly optimistic release date anyway. But I don't know. If he winds up being one of these guys who just gets pushed around. Look, Mike Van Diem, one of my favorite directors of the last 20 years, he won an Oscar 15 years ago for his first film, Character, the Dutch film. An amazing movie. Then he was supposed to do Enemy of the State, had a falling out because he wouldn't be pushed around, and he spent the last 15 years just doing commercials in Europe. He finally has a new movie, a romantic comedy, that just got announced at Cannes. 15 years after his Academy Award-winning first film, because he wouldn't be pushed around. They like to push these young directors around, and that concerns me.
Well, I'm also worried about, although I do like him, in fact, I voted him as I think he was my number one choice for New Generation at LAFCA. I think it was like the only person who voted for him, because I really like Safety Not Guaranteed. My fear is that what'll happen to him is what happens to a lot of foreign directors that wind up coming to the States.
Yeah.
Whereas everything that made them unique and interesting and that got the studio so excited to hire them, they just forget all of it and say, make me a gigantic action film.
And that, by the way, goes all the way back to the 30s. That's that whole system of bringing people over. Jean Renoir never made any really great movies in Hollywood. And, it's that. Anyway, Jurassic Park in 3D, no.
Negative.
Negatory. Summer movies we're looking forward to. I'm not really looking forward to any summer movies, to be honest.
What?
No, you know what? Elysium. I'm looking forward to Elysium.
Yes, you're.
That's
you know
it.
what? Okay.
Neil Blomkamp, I'm on board. Everything else, I'm not the least bit interested in. That's the only one.
Well, having seen Star Trek, I can tell you that I'm done with. I've seen that. Man of Steel. I am more curious to see how much Snyder's going to either blow it or surprise us.
I am more interested in the fall season. I think the fall is going to bring some amazing movies, and a lot of them are already screening at Cannes, and they're getting great reviews. We talked about The Bling Ring,
Inside Llewyn
Davis, which has got a great review. The Past.
Also, Gravity. I am really curious about the. Yes.
Yeah.
How do you not want to see that?
You know,
It's going to be awesome. Come on, it's Alfonso Cuarón. He directed Children of Men.
It looks like a less realistic feature-length version of the 2001 scene, swapping out the SE-432 unit or whatever.
No. Okay. How amazing would it be? And again, I don't know. I know nothing about the film. But how amazing would it be if the film is like, let's say, 2 hours long, and literally an hour and 45 minutes of that movie are two characters floating in space, talking, worrying about if they're going to live or die. How awesome would that be? That would be totally awesome.
Yeah, okay.
You love that. You know, if David Lean did that, oh my God, it's about two people in space. I can't believe how bold it was.
We're at 70 minutes. We're done. We'll be back next week. See you guys.